you. Ryan, the Labour Party have 9 minutes. I presume you're sharing with Deputy Burke?
I will be sharing my time with Deputy Burton. The public consultation for BusConnects has been a fraught affair, and there's no doubt about that. But I believe the responsibility for ratcheting up the concerns to anxiety and worry levels rests with some political parties who have used this consultation for political gain. Of course there are concerns throughout the city and county. In my own constituency there are fears over the express bus service from Balbriggan, Skerries, Rush and Lusk. But I understand these worries are being addressed through the consultation process. There are concerns about the 43 bus service, which is a major school transport route from Swords down the Malahide Road. There are concerns about the 42 route through Malahide. There are real concerns and they need to be addressed through the public consultation process. This is one of the most important public consultation processes that I can remember, as the plan that is before us is a radical shake-up of a traditional bus service and routes. It needs to be handled carefully, diligently and with a measured approach to ensure any change is an improvement and protect citizens through increased, not decreased, connectivity. As for the plan itself, there are elements to the plan which I like. I like the idea of greater connectivity to get to more places with greater frequency. This is the core requirement, I believe, of public transport. The naming of the spine system on alphabetical lines would bring greater clarity of routes, and I do believe that it would be an improvement on the current system. I use the bus myself, but I know how to get from my own area into the city, into Dublin City. I know of other bus routes in my constituency, but beyond that, I have very little idea which bus goes to Rathfarnham, Blanchardstown, Shankill or elsewhere. The proposed naming does make sense, and I welcome that. The identification of transport hubs needs to be very carefully carried out. The hubs need to be in pedestrianised areas with enough traffic and passive surveillance to ensure people feel safe and secure. They can't be in industrial estates or retail parks which have become ghost towns after close of business every day. We are at an acute point in terms of infrastructural development in Dublin. The housing crisis is the most visible manifestation of the pressure, but we have it across the board. We don't have enough water or wastewater treatment capacity to deal with the growth that's needed to solve the housing crisis, and we don't have the transport infrastructure either. We have a great company in Dublin Bus, who I liken to Dublin Fire Brigade, as one of the few public bodies which enjoys the faith and good favour of the Irish public. Dublin Bus is creaking under the strain of existing growth and is under pressure from private operators and from people choosing cars above public transport. They see the public bus as being the lower level option, particularly if you're on a train line or if you live at the outer edges of the city. Dublin Bus needs a new plan, and they have been involved with the NTA in helping to develop this initial proposal. If we don't do something radical with our bus service to make journeys quicker and to improve connectivity, I believe Dublin Bus will suffer. We cannot continue to expand the service in a piecemeal fashion. There needs to be radical change. We want to be in a position where young Dubliners in particular are keeping their leap card longer before feeling a need to get a car. This requires integration of transport modes. It requires investment, and I believe strongly it requires the state to retain control of these critical transport modes. The state needs to lead on this. It needs to stand strong, and it is a big part of leading on climate change too. What this motion boils down to, in my view, is an attack on the process of public consultation itself. This is the first phase of public consultation. At the very outset, it was extended until the end of September. Extra information meetings were put on in communities all over the city and county. This is a proposal for consultation, not a plan for implementation. So people should engage with the process. It will come back for further public consultation. And if the plan comes back and it is egregious and awful, then we will all ensure that it is not implemented. But I guarantee you this: if you asked the people of Dublin 4 months ago if the bus service needed to be improved or changed in their area, the vast majority would have said yes. Now we have a draft plan. I believe it is going to be changed a great deal as this phase of public consultation concludes. But I worry that the die has been cast and that this plan will be scrapped. We heard it rise at leaders' questions this morning from people who have never delivered anything to anyone, ever, calling for this to be scrapped. This motion itself is from Fianna Fáil. who will be involved in the negotiations for the next programme for government, which will begin in either a couple of weeks or after the next general election. Either way, I would imagine they would be calling for this to be scrapped. They have used this process as an opportunity to get posters on poles, to get leaflets indoors, and to tap into people's fear of change. The consultation itself must be genuine. It must be responsive, and I think it will be. But there are problems. The Lower Kimmage Road, Santry Village, Terranure, Dublin 15 are all areas which need focus through this process. I mentioned the issues in my own constituency which need to be addressed. I think there is scope for another A-spine from Balbriggan to travel straight onto the M1 and into the city. Balbriggan is the second largest town by population in Fingal and has further zoned land which sees its population increase to the west of the town by thousands. These people could be at Whitehall on a bus by the time it would take them to get to the train station in Balbriggan if they had a direct spine service. Large population centres such as Malahide and Swords need to be considered carefully in terms of the spine routes. I believe Swords is under-resourced in the current plan too, and a lot of work needs to be done there to ensure there is coverage for a town this large. But it is incumbent on us all as politicians to give public consultations a chance, but to ensure they are strong and to ensure that they are robust. I believe Save Our Bus Service messages are reckless. They foment the belief that public consultations are foregone conclusions and something people shouldn't engage in positively. Let's see what comes out the other end of this process before coming to judgment and execution. This is also a lesson we can apply to other public consultations, from local area plans to wastewater treatment plants, as well as to BusConnects itself. I will share with Deputy Board.
Thank you.